We can share information, but we will never accept the presence of the United States Army in our territory. I said,
That's Mexico's very popular President Claudia Sheinbaum powerfully asserting the sovereignty of Mexico in a speech where she's saying, I told Donald Trump, absolutely under no circumstances will you be bringing United States troops into Mexico. Do you hear me, Donald? Let me show you more of that speech, because it is just a powerful moment where you see President Claudia Sheinbaum standing up and pushing back against Donald Trump publicly. Let's play this clip.
I want to close with something that is important. Notice that yesterday it was published in a newspaper in the United States, in the Wall Street Journal, that President Trump, in one of the calls, he told me that it was important for the United States Army to enter Mexico to help us in the fight against drug trafficking. And I want to say that it's true. In some of the calls, but not as mentioned, he said, how can we help you fight against drug trafficking? I propose that the United States Army come in to help you. And do you know what I said to him? No, President Trump, the territory is inviolable. Sovereignty is inviolable. Sovereignty is not for sale. Sovereignty is loved and defended. There is no need. We can collaborate, we can work together, but you in your territory, we in ours. We can share information, but we will never accept the presence of the United States Army in our territory. I said, I said something else in one of the calls. I said Mexico is great and its people are very brave. That is our country, that is Mexico. And I told him one more thing. If you want to help us, President Trump, help us to prevent weapons from entering Mexico from the United States. And look at how things are. Yesterday, President Trump gave an order for everything necessary to be done to prevent weapons from entering our country from the United States. That is to say, one can collaborate, one can cooperate. Collaboration, yes. Cooperation, yes. Subordination, no. Always defending Mexico's sovereignty. Mexico is a free, independent, and sovereign country. That is what the people of Mexico want, and that is why the President of the Republic always defends it. That is the greatness of Mexico. We will continue with.
Now, in addition to Donald Trump wanting to send American troops into Mexico, Donald Trump has still not been able to make a trade deal with Mexico. And that's incredibly embarrassing because in Donald Trump's first administration, he made the trade deal with Mexico and Canada that he now breached and violated. The deal was called the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, the USMCA, which updated the NAFTA agreement. Trump has failed to do a deal even with Mexico and Canada at this point. He's failed to do a deal with Japan. He did a deal with Japan in 2018. Trump is like the worst deal maker ever. No deal, Donald. Let's rewind a little bit as well, and let me show you some powerful moments over the past month to 2 months where President Claudia Sheinbaum has stood up to Donald Trump. This is an incredible moment right here in one of her speeches, speaking to a huge crowd where she told Donald Trump that the United States will never infringe upon the sovereignty of Mexico. Play this clip.
Cooperation, coordination, yes. Subordination, no. We are a free, independent, and sovereign country. And Mexico is respected anywhere in the world because we ask to be treated as equals. That is why I've always said cooperation, coordination, yes. Subordination, no. Never. Mexico is a free, independent, and sovereign country. We are a great country. We are a cultural example in the world. The world respects Mexico. The United States would not be what it is without the Mexican men and women who work on the other side. If there weren't compatriots working in the fields on the other side, the best field workers, there wouldn't be food on American tables.
Now, this next clip was during some of the early days where Donald Trump was trying to bully Mexico as he was trying to bully Canada and the rest of the world. I want you to watch as President Claudia Sheinbaum methodically went point by point addressing all of Donald Trump's erratic and despicable behavior and letting the people of Mexico know that she's got their back and that Donald Trump is never, ever going to bully Mexico. Play this clip.
Regarding the decrees, it's important to refer to the decrees that President Donald Trump signed yesterday. Rest assured that we will always defend our sovereignty and our independence, and that we will always provide support to the Mexicans who are in the United States, to our fellow nationals, to our countrymen. Those two principles are very fundamental and essential. It's always important to keep a cool head. I'm going to refer to 5 topics. The emergency zone decree at the southern border is practically the same as the decree he signed during his first term. There was already a framework for action, a cooperation between the government of the United States and Mexico, back then under President Trump and President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. It's not something new. Second point, the declaration of the MPP, which they call Remain in Mexico, is the same decree that was made in 2018. What does this decree mean? That for people who are seeking asylum in the United States, the US does not allow them to stay on its territory while they are asking for asylum. We have our own immigration policy. We are a humanitarian government. We are not going to leave people out in the open, and the repatriation to their countries is sought in case they are foreign. The third point, the topic of the Gulf of Mexico. They say they are going to call it the Gulf of America on their continental shelf. I mean, what corresponds to the continental shelf of the United States, they call it the Gulf of America. So it's about their continental shelf. For us and for the whole world, it is still called the Gulf of Mexico, for the cartels as terrorist organizations. The decree states that they have 2 weeks at least to study whom they would call a terrorist organization. They can act on their territory. In their framework of action and their constitution, what we are going to seek is coordination with respect to our sovereignty. And the other thing that is very relevant is the treaty. The U.S. Trade Representative will begin the public consultation process regarding the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement in preparation for the review in July 2026. What they are saying is to continue the trade agreement. So, it's important to stay calm and read the decrees as they are in order to make an interpretation. And let them know that the President of the Republic will always defend Mexico.
Now, I thought one of the very powerful moments as well was when President Claudia Sheinbaum pulled up a map of the United States and Mexico from about 300-400 years ago. And she goes, well, if you really want to know your history, Donald, maybe we should just rename the United States Mexico. Play this clip right here.
Obviously, Gulf of Mexico is name recognized by the United Nations. It's an organization of the United Nations, but the next question is, why don't we call it Mexican America? It sounds nice, doesn't it? Right. Since 1607, the Apatzingan Constitution referred to it as Mexican America. So let's call it Mexican America. It sounds nice, doesn't it? And Gulf of Mexico, well, you see, since 1607, and it's also recognized internationally. Well, historically speaking, because as you might know, I know they're going to ask me. I think that yesterday President Trump, they misinformed President Trump, with all due respect, because I believe they told him that Felipe Calderon and Garcia Luna were still in power in Mexico.
Now, folks, you'll recall that during the first Trump administration, he lied to the American people and he said that Mexico was going to pay for the wall 100%. He guaranteed it, right? Doesn't that sound familiar? Donald Trump said that he was going to bring down prices and housing would be more affordable and he would end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours this time. But his first big fraud running the presidential campaign the first time was this. Let's play the clip right here.
Who's going to pay for the wall? Who? 100%. 100%.
You know, it's pretty humiliating, embarrassing that even to this day, Donald Trump has people in his administration like the border czar, Tom Homan, gives press conferences. This is from the past week and a half, 2 weeks. Trump's border czar said, no, Mexico actually paid for it. They didn't pay for it. Here, play this clip.
Address that. Trump said Mexico won't pay for the wall. They have in a roundabout way, have they not? Putting 10,000 military on the northern and southern border, taking the action they did remain in Mexico. They didn't have to do that. They're doing it. Putting military on the southern border. Have moved illegal immigration to a record low. We're saving millions of dollars every day.
I mean, it's just so embarrassing when they say things like that. We know that's not the case. It should also be noted that the economy of Mexico during the first quarter growing faster than the United States. Actually, the U.S. GDP was in last place of GDP Q1 growth as compared to the Eurozone, Italy, Germany, Austria, France, and Mexico. Mexico is also benefiting from Canada's boycott against the United States. To all our Canadian viewers and Australian viewers, leave a comment below also if you've decided to cancel your trip to the U.S. and book a trip in Mexico. Canadians, for example, are skipping U.S. vacations and heading straight to Mexico. We've observed notable changes in certain travel patterns. For example, we saw a moderation in trends for inbound travel into the U.S. among Canadians, particularly from bookers in Canada, and a lesser extent from bookers in Europe, although that's changing now. However, we also saw an improvement in trends in other travel corridors, for example, from Canada to Mexico, resulting in stable growth overall. In other words, America is a flyover country right now. One of the things that the United States is also doing in Mexico is they are running these bizarre propaganda ads that Claudia Sheinbaum has moved to ban. And it's so discriminatory. It's so offensive to the Mexican people. It's in English, by the way, also. And they run that over and over again. Oh, here's Donald Trump back in the first term where he announced the USMCA. I think he thought it was the YMCA. The USMCA. He goes, here, play this clip.
It's my great honor to announce that we have successfully completed negotiations on a brand new deal to terminate and replace NAFTA and the NAFTA trade agreements with an incredible new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement called USMCA. It sort of just works. MCA. USMCA. And that'll be the name, I guess, that 99% of the time we'll be hearing, USMCA. Has a good ring to it.
Such a strange human being. One more point I want to make, because it hasn't gotten a lot of attention. About 3 weeks ago, 2 United States service members died at the border from the troops that Donald Trump sent there. Another individual was in critical condition. Donald Trump did not mention once that U.S. service members died at the border. Similarly, Donald Trump did not address ever the American soldiers who died in Lithuania. 4 American soldiers. Lithuanian government gave a very honorific send-off and tribute to the fallen soldiers, but nothing from Donald Trump at all. Folks, Mexico's got a very powerful, popular president who knows how to push back. And if Donald Trump can't do a trade deal with Mexico, if Donald Trump is getting rebuked in Mexico, it should be close allies, as he is in Canada, now as he is in Japan, as he is across the world. It's a big, big problem. Big, big problem. No deals, Donald. The worst deal maker in history. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers. And thank you so much for watching.
New Midas merch drop! Check out the latest pro-democracy sticker packs, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and more. All at store.MeidasTouch.com.